So hello, that was a very strong intro. I feel like I owe him some money. So I want to start this off by telling a story from my past. When I was 6 years old, my father, who recently passed away, he bought me a G.I. Joe. For anybody old enough to know what G.I. Joe is, they're one of the little military soldiers. You know, I loved it. You know, I loved that combat. I loved the action figure. And I brought it to the corner to play with it one day. And at the corner, the neighborhood bully came by. His name was Eric Ridenhour. He was the little brother of a very popular hip-hop star, Chuck D, from Public Enemy, if anybody follows old school hip-hop. And this guy had me terrified. I was 6 years old, about yay big. Eric was 9 or 10 years old, about yay big. And he was a real bully. He used to throw hammers at my head. One day he threw a hammer. I actually heard it whiz by, zip, by my ear. I mean, this guy had me terrified, you know, and I wasn't like a punk 6-year-old. I was just a regular 6-year-old. So I'm at the corner playing the G.I. Joe. Here comes Eric. Eric says, "Let me see your G.I. Joe." My first instinct is, of course not. But since I'm afraid of him, I don't want to deny him or defy him. So I gave him the G.I. Joe. He says, "Now get out of here and go home." I said, "No, I just got that." He says, "Go home." So I considered what I was going to do. I wanted to, but I looked at him. He's bigger than me. He was stronger than me. I was afraid of him. He threw hammers at me. So I went home, tears in my eyes, dejected. And as I got to the house, my father just happened to be in the doorway. So he said, "What's wrong?" I was crying. He said, he asked me what was wrong. I said, "You know, Eric Ridenhour took my G.I. Joe." And I went to go in the house, and he wouldn't move out the way. I said, "Dad, can I get in?" He says, "No, go get your G.I. Joe." I said, "But Daddy, I'm afraid of him." He said, "Go get the G.I. Joe, or I'm not gonna let you in the house." So now I'm walking back to the corner. Now I'm scared, I'm upset, I'm without my G.I. Joe, and I'm pissed off, because my father wouldn't even let me in the house. I go to the corner, he's sitting there playing with my G.I. Joe. I said, "I want my G.I. Joe back." He says, "Get out of here." I went to get the G.I. Joe, and he pushed me. Guess what I did? I leaped at him, hit him, pounded him with all the fury that I could muster. I'm so mad at you. The 6-year-old hitting the 9 or 10-year-old meant nothing. I did no physical damage, you know. I don't really think I even scratched him. But he collapsed, he hit the ground, and just put his hands up. And I just went after him with all I could, with all my fury. Got my G.I. Joe, came home. My father was at the door. He said, "Do you have the G.I. Joe?" I said, "Yes." He let me in. I went to my room. He said, "Before you go in the room, sit down at the table. I want to talk to you." I said, "Yes, Dad." He says, "Did you learn a lesson?" Maybe. He said, "Eric is a bully, okay? And the only way that bullies have power over you is because you let them." He says, "Bullies only pick on people who won't fight back. The minute you fought Eric back, he gave up immediately." So, now with that quick story from my childhood, I bring up to UltraCoin. UltraCoin is a replacement for my father, and it allows people who basically feel that they couldn't fight back against the big Erics, the big bullies, to enable to fight back. Let's say the big bullies are the large multinational financial corporations, just assuming, not saying they are. The Goldman Sachs and the Lehman Brothers, the JP Morgans, who charge significant margins, collapse, get bailout, come back, do the same thing again, wash, rinse, and repeat. So the problem with that, I'll cut this off, the problem with that scenario, okay, is broken trust. The reason why these, if you could call them bullies, get away with it is because you're afraid to challenge them, but you can't trust them. You give them money, they charge very large fees, whether it's for trading, whether it's for holding money as escrow agent, brokers, loans, mortgages, etc. Practically every entity has distrust, whether you're dealing with the bank, whether we're doing a deal, and to counter that trust, it causes extra expenses in the transaction. Legal expenses, due diligence, delays, litigation, actual losses. So the solution to a loss of trust is zero trust, or zero trust smart contracts. Anybody who's read the Bitcoin smart paper understands the smart contracts theory, where you can basically build in a digital form of a legal style contract directly into Bitcoin. When I read that, a light bulb went off in my head. I said, there are so many problems I can solve with this. Okay, so I created a super Bitcoin wallet that basically allows you to create your own smart contracts. You do it yourself, you submit it to the blockchain, and use it to solve a multitude of problems. I'm starting with finance and investment. So through these zero trust smart contracts, you can create a deal, a financial deal, with no counterparty risk. In other words, you don't have to worry about the counterparty collapsing, running away, etc. No credit risk. You don't have to worry about how creditworthy they are, whether they're able to pay you back or willing to pay you back. And you don't even have to know the counterparty or trust them. So with that in mind, I came up with the slogan: loans without banks, trades without brokers, contracts without lawyers. You could do all this with the smart contract technology that's built into the UltraCoin wallet. It enables individuals and corporations of any size, the Davids or the 6-year-olds from my childhood, to do business like the global institutions, the big Goliaths or the Erics from my childhood. These are screenshots from the UltraCoin client, which I actually intended to launch and pass out to the audience and do a sample trade so you can short JPM, trade gold, silver, etc., in and out of Bitcoin, fiat. But a bug came up at the last minute, so I don't have it. But it will be available soon. Okay, here we have an example of trading euro for Bitcoin. Okay, you put in an amount, 50,000 euro. You swap it with Bitcoin you pick the time, and then it gives you a summary of the contract. You hit find, it puts that up to bid as a swap. Someone takes the other side of it, wants to trade Bitcoin for euro, and you have a deal. It goes up to the blockchain, it's locked in. Neither side can back out of it, neither side can renege. There's no way they could defraud you, and there's no financial incentive to defraud, because anybody who defrauds, everybody takes a loss. Its simplicity makes it ingenious. Okay, it is safer than any bank with any balance sheet, especially these banks' balance sheets, and you settle in cash. It happens immediately, trade 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no banking hours, no trading hours. The second screen does the same thing. It's showing equities. Trading, you're going to short 80 Bitcoin worth of JP Morgan. You could go long or short. Okay, it does about 10 to 15,000 tickers, North American securities, stocks, options, real estate, both commercial and residential, metals, silver, gold. As it is right now, basically replaces your ability to replaces the ability to trade with Charles Schwab, E-Trade, etc. The major difference is, I'm going to ignore most of the PowerPoint. The major difference is you're trading peer-to-peer. So because you trade an exchange, and if you trade with an exchange, you encounter counterparty risk, I want to fix that solution. So now you trade with her directly. Okay? No exchange needed, no exchange necessary, no counterparties, no issues of trust, no escrow agents. Your monies stay in your personal wallet until you actually do the exchange. When you do the exchange, it then goes up to the blockchain, and the blockchain is your only counterparty. Okay, and this particular example shows one of the many strategic uses. Let me go through the whole thing, and I'll try to answer questions if we have time. If not, then afterwards, I talk all the time, okay? You can hedge almost any financial exposure with this because of all the different financial assets. And you can hedge it at a fraction of the cost of any banking institution. You find a banking institution that comes near my cost, I'll have it, guaranteed. You can easily and quickly move value, not just money, because remember, these coins trade value, not money. Now I'm going to go into the difference a little later, across all geopolitical borders, for profit, for financial gain, or strategic gain. And this is an example of basically taking 75 basis point money in the United States, is what you get on your money, going to Venezuela at 16%, capturing the spread all through the wallet. Peer-to-peer, after expenses, you'll drop down to roughly 4 to 8% return annually. That is a whole lot more than 75 basis points, and it's guaranteed through the blockchain. Almost risk-free, much less risky than the banking institutions, including FDIC, which we'll go through in detail if you want to talk afterwards. Now, these are the different paradigms, I'd say, of financial transactions. You have the centralized system, which you see right there, such as Mt. Gox, Man Financial, and Lehman Brothers. Now, a lot of you say, but Mt. Gox used Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is decentralized. Yes, but Mt. Gox was centralized. Mt. Gox acted as the broker, the exchange, the custodian, and the banking agent. So when they went down, they took your Bitcoin down with them. Okay, a lot of, if you look in the media, when Mt. Gox collapsed, you see a lot of media titles, is this the fall of Bitcoin? Bitcoin is over. That's absolute nonsense. It was the fall of Mt. Gox. When Lehman collapsed, was that the fall of the US dollar? You know, when a bank robber robs a bank, does that mean the US dollar is falling? No, that particular business went down. But you still have those risks with a centralized exchange. Then you have, on the other side, you have a totally decentralized exchange, where everybody trades totally peer-to-peer. Okay? That is slower and less efficient because you don't have a central body running things. The UltraCoin paradigm is a hybrid of the two. You trade peer-to-peer, your assets remain in your wallet until you send it to the blockchain, but you find each other through the UltraCoin server. The UltraCoin server has two uses only: to help you find each other, okay, and to take the fees for the deal. That's how I profit, and that's it. You can't take your fees from, you can't take your money out of my server because it never touches it. Your identity doesn't come to my server. You just download the wallet, there's no need to log in, I don't know who you are, okay? It's totally pseudonymous, or as pseudonymous as Bitcoin. You create your own smart contracts with the interface that I saw. So you create the amount, you create the parameters, you create the time limit, the expiry, etc. You hit fine, and an anonymous party takes the other side. So you do the entire contract design yourself. You trade peer-to-peer, and all trades settle immediately. As fast as Bitcoin can settle, the trade settles in cash. Bitcoin as cash. Bitcoin in, Bitcoin out. There's no need to have access to a formalized exchange. You're not subjected to counterparty risk. You're not subjected to credit risk. And you don't require trust. It enables pseudonymous transactions. I went through most of this, so we're just going to zip by. And once you create a peer-to-peer entity that doesn't require trust, that is able to cut the margins of the established system, you have what? Disintermediation. For those who are not familiar with the economic or financial term of disintermediation, is when you take the middleman out of the situation, or you take the profits from the middleman out. This is particularly the case with UltraCoin. And I'd love to have UltraCoin team up with a lot of financial entities, but to be absolutely honest, UltraCoin is to replace most of financial entities, because if you do not truly add value to the transaction, you will be disintermediated. So if you charge money just because I stand in between you, and my only function is to stand in between you and take money, well, UltraCoin will now remove me, and you can deal directly with each other. Okay, and the money that I would charge, you now divvy up. So my bonuses are now profits to your deal or added margin. Disintermediation is an interesting concept because it usually predates or presages a paradigm shift. You have Napster, which presaged a paradigm shift in the music industry and the media industry. You had the PC, right, which presaged several industry shifts. You have the internet. And as many of you heard, the internet is, Bitcoin is the internet from 1993. The price of Bitcoin, from my perspective, is absolutely irrelevant because the value of Bitcoin is in the protocol, which is what I'm using the power of UltraCoin, not in the price of the individual unit of account, which people are calling currency. To put this in perspective, think of the internet in 1993. Does anybody know what the price of AOL stock was? Who knows, right? You don't really care. But fast forward 21 years later, and the internet is part of the economic fabric of almost every transaction. The potential market is significant. It boggles the mind. Since I'm dealing as the gatekeeper in value, such as Google is a gatekeeper of information, UltraCoin is to be the gatekeeper of value, I will participate in all value transactions, or attempt to. So let's take the slogan that I had: loans without banks, syndicated loans at 3.2 trillion, trades without brokers, bond market 157 trillion, stock market 57 trillion, forex markets $4 trillion daily turnover. You add that up, you're talking $225 trillion with 5 basis point penetration. 5 basis points is 0.05% of 1%. 5 basis point penetration, we're talking well over, $1.4 billion in cash flow for UltraCoin. And that is 5% of 1%, right? 2% yields $50 billion in revenues. So you can see UltraCoin is poised potentially to be a significant part of financial transactions in the future. Now, So far, I've been discussing finance and investment, but finance and investment is not value. It's one portion, one subset of value, right? We also plan to disintermediate those in real estate, healthcare, estate planning, import-export, intellectual property, and a whole swath of other industries. Basically, whenever value transacts hands, UltraCoin wants to be that vehicle for the transaction. And if we become that vehicle for the transaction, we remove barriers, we increase efficiencies, and we disintermediate. So we take out the middleman that doesn't add value to the transaction. The competitive advantage, we're first movers. I plan to launch today. I will launch on the Max Kaiser show roughly in 2 weeks for those who watch Max Kaiser on Russia Today. Roughly around the 21st, I'm going to actually launch the coin there. I'm going to distribute it through my sites, through my blogs, through Max Kaiser's blogs. Everybody to get to trade with it. You can short JPM, go after the banks, do whatever you want. We have a lack of legacy products and lack of conflicts of interest that prevent us from disintermediating. Basically, I'm not screwing any of my clients, so I can give everybody a break because I'm starting from scratch, brand new. And we have a CEO, which is myself, who's very brazen, not afraid to tell the truth, and I'm not afraid to take risks as long as I measure the risk. The plan of attack: market aggressively across multiple channels, retail, corporate, and institutional. I plan to sell ferociously through all channels, and I want to make UltraCoin the de facto wallet for not only sending and receiving Bitcoin, but for transacting in value across all matters of value. Fiat currency, gold, silver, etc. You're not exchanging the physical, you're exchanging the value, the difference in price. And education. Like I explained with the fall of Mt. Gox, and everybody thought that was the end of Bitcoin. The fall of Mt. Gox was the fall of Mt. Gox, not the end of Bitcoin. As a matter of fact, I think it was the beginning. And with that, I'd like to say au revoir. Hopefully I was able to educate and entertain, or at least occupy your time, and I'll be available for questions after the speech. Okay.
Thank you, Reggie.